لله بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. I ask Allah Ta'ala to grant us the sincere intentions. So I was thinking about the chapter of fasting and I noticed that we really did not cover the chapter of fasting properly. So I thought today that I would go over it with you and finish the text of the chapter of fasting. It's not a lot. And then we will see how we want to cover the details according to the school of Al-Imam Abu Hanifa radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. So as you know, Allah Ta'ala said in the Quran, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. This is Surah Al-Baqarah 183. Types of fasting. Fasting Ramadan is an obligation upon every person who is Muslim, sane, and pubescent, whether it is done on time during Ramadan, يعني أداء, or as a make-up fasting, يعني قضاء. The fasting because of vows, vows meaning النذر, and expiations, fasting, الكفارات, are necessary, يعني واجب. هذا يعتبر واجبا ذاك يعتبر فرضا. This one is considered as wajib, the other is a fard. Other types of fasting are optional fasting, nafil. It is unlawful to fast the 2 Eid days and the 3 days after Eid al-Adha. Intention. Fasting of Ramadan and the specified vows, النذر المعين, is permissible with having the intention done at night or up to the middle of the day. We explained what do we mean by the middle of the day. It is half the time between Al-Fajr and Al-Dhuhr. The mere intention, مطلق النية, or the intention to fast, the optional fasting. It is permissible to fast the optional fasting with the intention done on, before, or before the middle of the day. It is permissible to fast Ramadan with the intention to fast a necessary fasting, like the expiation fasting, while other types of fasting are not permissible except by a specific intention done at night, after Maghrib and before Fajr. Yani he's saying here, if you are fasting Ramadan with an intention of a wajib, it is permissible. But other types of fasting are not permitted unless you do the intention during the night time. The it in the if in Ramadan the sick person or the traveler intends to perform a necessary fasting, like making up days from past Ramadan, the fasting is counted for what he or she has intended. Otherwise, the stronger saying for the sick person is that the intention will be for fasting the ongoing Ramadan. Okay, so it means here that if the sick person or the traveler in Ramadan, they intend fasting something else other than Ramadan, then they will be fasting what they intended, this wajib fasting. Otherwise, it is fasting of Ramadan. Time and abstaining. The time of fasting is from the appearance of the second Fajr to sunset. Fasting is to abstain from eating and drinking and copulating. Full mouth induced vomiting, apostasy, and وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ تَعَالَى مِنْهَا, and emitting sexual fluid, by example, masturbation. While having the intention to fast, this should be applicable to all of them. Additionally, the condition is that the woman is clear from menses and postpartum bleeding. Sighting the moon. The Muslims look for sighting the moon on the 29th of Sha'ban at sunset. If they see the moon, they will fast the next day. In case they could not see the moon, they complete Sha'ban 30 days. That is, there is no provision that Muslims would refer to calculation to fast here in this case. Obstruction. If the sky has an obstruction, i.e., it's not clear, because of cloud, dust, or the like, which prevents sighting, the testimony of a single trustworthy person is acceptable. The free, slave, and women are equal in that their testimony is acceptable. This is unlike the Shafi'i school here. If the judge rejects one's testimony, that person still fasts. If the sky has no obstruction, nothing other than the testimony of a group of people is accepted, so that by their saying, one acquires the knowledge that the moon has been sighted. So, here in this case, the judge will be referring to a group to see, to testify that they have sighted the moon because there's no obstruction. Case 6, unifying the fasting and breaking fast days. If the sighting is confirmed in one city, all the Muslims are bound to follow it. It does not matter if one city sights the sunrise, if one city's sight of sunrise and sunset differ with another. Meaning here, as we mentioned, if you remember, we spoke about ittihad al-matali' and ikhtilaf al-matali'. So in the Hanafi school, it doesn't matter whether you have the same sites of sunrise and sunset or not. If the cities are far apart, it doesn't matter how much they are far apart. Day of doubt. One cannot fast the day of doubt, 30th of Sha'ban, except by having the intention to fast the mere optional fasting. Shawwal sighting. Shawwal's moon is sought on the 29th of Ramadan. The person who sights the moon alone does not stop fasting the next day. If the person breaks fast, the person makes up that day without having to fulfill Ramadan's expiation. If the sky has an obstruction, the testimony of two men or a man and two women is acceptable. If the sky does not have an obstruction, a big number of people is required. So, as we said in the beginning of the month of Ramadan, that still a big group of people is required to confirm the sighting of the month of Shawwal. But as you notice here, two men or a man and two women. Moreover, sighting the moon of the month of Dhul Hijjah is like sighting the moon of Shawwal. So he's telling you like other months in the lunar calendar are similar to the sighting of the moon of Shawwal. He didn't say Ramadan, he said Shawwal. So what breaks fasting and what to fulfill? This is chapter 1. These are the previous cases. We have 8 cases which I counted. Now here they have this chapter, section 1, expiation cases. The one who intentionally copulates, i.e. not forgetting it is Ramadan, meaning they have to pay expiation, kafara. The one who is copulated with through one of the person's 2 passages, and then intentionally eats or drinks food that nurtures the body. He's still counting. Yani he's the one who intentionally copulates, the one who is copulated with through one of the person's 2 passages, the one who intentionally eats or drinks food that nurtures the body, or takes a medicine while fasting. The person has to make up the day and fulfill expiation, kafara, similar to that of the wife likened to mother expiation, yani kafara to zihar. wife likened to mother, expiation, kafara to zihar. Like we know, they have to free a slave. If unable, then they have to fast 2 consecutive months. If unable, then they have to feed 60 poor Muslims. Section 2, make up cases. If the person sexually lays with another but did not copulate through the two passages, copulates with an animal, kisses or touches and ejaculates, performs an enema, inserts a substance into the nose, puts eardrop in the ear, performs abdominal surgery, which through it food or medicine reach the body cavity, performs head surgery, whose medicine would reach the head cavity, swallows a foreign object like iron, induces mouthful vomiting, eats for suhoor after Fajr has set, believing that it is still nighttime, or breaks fast before sunset, believing that it is after Maghrib. And we said that in these two conditions, the person needs to look for the Fajr and the Maghrib before he does that. In all these cases, one has to only make up the day. So as you notice, this is different than the section before, because the section before has expiation cases. Here it's only making up. In section 3, non-breaking fast cases. If the person eats or drinks or copulates while forgetful, sleeps and ejaculates, looks at a woman and ejaculates, anoints one's body and hair, performs cupping, intends to break the fast without doing it, puts kuhul on the eyes, kisses, gossips, like lying also, but they are haram, of course, gossiping and lying, is overtaken by vomit, puts drops in male's organ, has dust or flies entering one's throat, or wakes up junub, meaning that he needs ghusl because of ejaculation. In all these cases, the person did not break fast. If one swallows a food particle left between one's teeth, whose size is less than that of chickpeas, the person does not break fast. Otherwise, if it is equal in size or bigger than the chickpeas, one breaks fast. Section 4, disliked cases. It is disliked for the one fasting to chew a gum, but non-sugarless gum breaks the fast. Taste the food and kiss one's spouse if one cannot restrain oneself from copulating. Chapter 2, Sick traveler and excused fasting. Section 1, permissible cases for not fasting. The one who has fears, the one who fears the occurrence of real sickness or its increase would break fast. It is better for the traveler who is traveling a prayer shortening distance. This prayer shortening distance is the amount you cover while traveling in 3 days, like the travel of the caravan, the person who's walking with the caravan. So if it is better for the traveler who's traveling a prayer shortening distance, he can still break the fast, but it is better for him to fast, but it is valid if he or she breaks fast. If the sick person, if the sick or the traveler dies while each is on his or her state of sickness or travel, nothing is stipulated on each of them. If the sick person is healed or the traveler becomes a non-traveler and dies, each has to make up the days they could have made up but did not. They bequeath that for each day they did not fast, a deprived person would be fed as if one is fulfilling the fitrah. So they will make a will. They will say, uh, feed for us a deprived person because we did not feed so many different days. And this will be like how you fulfill the fitrah for them. If the pregnant and the nursing woman fear for the child or themselves because of fasting, they break fast and only make up the day. So there's no fidya here. The old person who cannot fast will break fast and feed a fidya to a deprived person. This is the old person. The insane whose insanity lasts for the whole month does not have to make up the fast. If he or she becomes sane during part of the month, he or she has to make up the days one has missed. The one who faints all Ramadan would make it up. So this is different than the Shafi'i school in these two cases. Section 2. Optional fasting. One is incumbent to complete the optional fasting after one starts it, whether one has just started it or one is making up the day. Otherwise, or however, one is not obligated to fulfill expiation in spoiling a day other than Ramadan. Section 3. Abstaining. In case during the Ramadan's day menstruating woman becomes pure, the traveler arrives to his or her destination, child becomes pubescent, or non-Muslim embraces Islam, he or she has to abstain from the fasting's invalidators for the rest of the day. Section 4. Making up. When making up Ramadan, one has the choice to do the days consecutively or separately. When the next Ramadan starts, one fasts Ramadan and only has to make up the days of the one before it, but it is sinful to neglect making up the fast. Unlawful fasting. If one vows to fast the 2 days of Eid and the Tashriq days, one has to fulfill the vow, but would not fast on these days. Rather, one makes up the days. Even if one fasts these days, the vow is fulfilled, but the person is sinful. Module 2. Bounding to masjid, meaning here al-i'tikaf. Bounding to masjid i'tikaf is an asserted sunnah, يعني sunnah mu'akkada. It is not permissible for less than a whole day period when one is doing a necessary bounding for fulfilling a vow, as our Hanafi school's companions have agreed. Bounding to masjid is to stay in the masjid, which holds congregational prayers while fasting and having the intention of i'tikaf. The woman bounds in her house masjid. She has to fulfill the conditions which the male has to fulfill in the masjid. The person does not go out of the confined bounding area except for fulfilling the human being's natural needs or to go to the Friday prayer. If that place doesn't have a Friday prayer, it has only the Jama'ah prayer but not the Friday prayer, then he is permitted to go back, to go there and comes back. If one goes outside the confined area without an excuse for an hour, the bounding becomes invalid and the i'tikaf now will be interrupted. It is disliked for the person doing the bounding to stay quiet without talking, but one should not talk except in what is good. It is unlawful to copulate or to start its inviting actions. If one copulates at night or in the daytime, whether intentionally or forgetfully, the bounding becomes invalid. If one vows to fulfill the bounding for some days, one has to do the days and their nights consecutively. If one has intended to do only the days, we believe him. One has to finish the day of bounding when one starts doing it. And by that, we have covered the chapter of fasting from Al-Ikhtiyar لتعليل المختار by الشيخ عبد الله الموصلي رحمه الله تعالى. وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.